When Madame Bridget and her little boy Toby moved into room 5 of the compound, everyone was excited at first. It had been ages since anyone new came into their small yard in Ibadan, and the last woman who lived in that room used to fry fish right in the corridor without shame. So people were just glad, hoping this new tenant would bring fresh energy, or at least the smell of air freshener. But from the very first day, it was clear that Madame Bridget didn't come to play, to share, or even to belong. She arrived with her bag, her cooler, her long legs, her long mouth, and a very long face. She greeted no one, waved at nobody, not even a nod. She simply dragged her Ghana must-go bags inside, barked at her 7-year-old son Toby to hold something well, and the first item she brought out was not a mop or mattress, it was her padlock. She locked the door, tested it 3 times, looked around suspiciously as if the entire compound was full of witches, then disappeared inside. From that moment people whispered, "This one won't last." And truly they were right. The very next morning, while other tenants were boiling water and shouting for buckets at the tap, Bridget came out in her wrapper, sniffed the air like she had caught the smell of poverty, and hissed. Mama Chica, who had lived in room 1 for 17 years, tried to be warm. She smiled and said, "Sister, good morning. Please you fit borrow me small salt? I just want to finish this yam." But Bridget looked at her as if she had asked for her kidney. With one eyebrow raised and hands on her waist, she replied, "Salt? I don't borrow and I don't lend. It is a principle. I keep my things to myself." Mama Chica's smile froze in the air like a mosquito. She nodded slowly and said, "No wala. Na salt no be gold." Bridget hissed again and added, "It always starts with salt. Before you know it, they expect you to raise their children." She turned and walked off, her wrapper flapping behind her like she had just defeat. Nylon. One Sunday Mama Chica knocked on her door to borrow a lighter. Bridget cracked the door open, checked the corridor to be sure no one was watching and said, I don't share fire. Everyone should have their own." She slammed the door as if closing a chapter. But that evening while walking past, she slipped on a wet sponge left by one of the children. She screamed, "God forbid! This compound is cursed." The neighbors rushed out, but when they saw it was her, they turned back slowly one by one like spirits returning to the underworld. By this time the yard was divided into 2 camps, normal humans on one side, Bridget and Son International on the other. Nobody knocked on her door anymore. Children stopped waving at Toby. If rain soaked her clothes, no one helped. If smoke poured out of her kitchen, they would just sit and say, "Don't worry, she has gas." But still Bridget didn't change. She walked past with her nose in the air, lips tight like someone holding fart during prayer, her rubber slippers slapping the ground as if it was her enemy's face. In just 2 months, everyone had tasted Madame Bridget's saltless wickedness. She was no longer just the new woman. She had become a compound proverb. Anytime someone misbehaved, they would say, "Don't start behaving like room 5. In her mind she was untouchable, unshakable, above them all. She believed she needed nobody, and so she tightened her defenses. Until the final straw came, when she refused to lend just one single clothes peg to Slim Nancy. That was when the tenants had enough. They didn't call it a meeting, but it became one. What started like small compound gist ended like a war council, and they gathered in front of room 3 to address the matter. The matter of Bridget had finally reached breaking point. Mama Chica began the discussion. "That woman is too proud. I don't mind quiet people, but this one has crossed into arrogance." "She's not just proud, oh," Slim Nancy added. "She is stingy. One would ask if she had seen their deliveries. And if she ever begged for anything, they would pretend not to hear." Even the children joined the alliance. Mama Chica told her daughter, "If Toby comes near you again, just start singing 'Keep Your Own' until he goes away." The next morning Bridget came out to fetch water. Her drum had run dry because she forgot to fill it the night before. She sighed and muttered, "Please, can I fetch just small water to rinse my pots?" Slim Nancy stood by the tap, earpiece in her ear. She pulled it out slowly, blinked at Bridget and asked sweetly, Sorry, I didn't hear you. What did you say?" Bridget repeated louder, "Please, I need small water, just one bowl." Nancy scratched her head. But I also need to manage this water. It won't even reach me and my dog." Bridget frowned. "But I thought you lived alone?" Nancy smiled. Yes, but I just adopted a spiritual dog. Very thirsty, but invisible. Bridget hissed and walked away with her empty bowl. That afternoon her generator refused to start. After pulling it 6 times, she gave up and went to Uncle Dapo's door, wiping sweat from her forehead. Please, she begged. Let me use your power bank to charge my phone for 20 minutes. Uncle Dapo looked at her, then at his power bank, then at her phone, then at the sky. Finally he shook his head. Neighbour warned me not to share power with unregistered people. Bridget opened her mouth, shut it again and muttered. This compound is full of bad people from room 1. Mama Chica's voice shot back from inside her room. We're not bad, we're just protecting ourselves. The war was in full motion now. When Toby slipped one day on soapy water and started crying, nobody moved. They glanced briefly and continued their gist. Baba Timmy said softly, he's a strong boy. Let him cry. Tears will make him grow. Bridget rushed out, filming the scene with her phone, but she couldn't start a war against everyone. She dragged her son inside, grumbling. At night, the neighbors would gather on the bench, talking loudly about love, teamwork, and how one hand washes the other. Just so Bridget could hear. Slowly, the isolation began to sink in. But by now it was too late. Pride had tied a wrapper firmly across her chest. Then came the Saturday morning when her village people decided to open her chapter. The sun rose like a landlord angry at tenants, slapping people as though they owed rent. Bridget, as usual, dressed as if she was going for a magazine cover shoot. Her hair tie pointed to heaven like an electric pole, and her oversized sunglasses were blocking the poverty of the compound from entering her eyes. She wasn't attending the wedding as a guest but as an exhibition, to impress old classmates and collect compliments. She locked Toby inside, scolding him. Stay here with your big head. Don't open the door for anyone. I'm only going to buy flour before the wedding. She secured the shiny colonial-era padlock, tested it thrice, pocketed the key, and walked out proudly. 30 minutes later, Bridget staggered back, heels wounding her feet, foundation melting under the sun. Just as she reached the gate, she heard a cry. Mommy! Mommy! She froze. The voice echoed again from the corridor. Mommy, I can't open the door. Mommy! Bridget dropped everything and ran. She bent to the door. Toby! Yes, Mommy. The door is not opening. I touched the metal and it's locked. Her heart sank. She fumbled with the padlock. It opened from outside. But the inner bolt had twisted shut. Toby had locked himself in. He was sweating, crying, trapped like a prisoner. Okay, baby, don't cry, Bridget pleaded. Try to turn it back. I tried, Mommy. It's not working. His sobs grew louder. Bridget panicked, knocking frantically on Mama Chica's door. No answer. The curtain moved once, then stilled. She tried Uncle Dapo's. He cracked his window, saw her, and another switched off. Tony the security man answered. I day church. Maybe I go come after 2 p.m. She returned, drenched in sweat. Toby's fists pounded the door from inside. Mommy, it's hot. I want to come out. Bridget knelt, crying. I'm sorry, my baby. Please don't cry. She banged on Baba Timmy's window. He opened it, looked at her and said quietly, You see now why we must live in peace? Salt is not expensive. Then he closed it again. Bridget collapsed on the floor, begging God. Just then Slim Nancy appeared, jingling a bunch of inner bolt keys like a prison guard. Is it this type of lock? She asked. Yes. Please help me. Bridget cried. Nancy examined her nails. Let me check with the ancestors first. Sometimes these children are jealous spirits. She disappeared for 10 long minutes. Bridget sobbed on the ground, her dress stained, pride evaporated. Neighbors peeped from their curtains like spectators at an African magic movie. Finally Nancy returned, slid the key into the lock, and it clicked. Toby burst out, red-eyed and sweaty, clinging to his mother. Bridget wept. I'm sorry. Nancy looked down at her and said calmly, You see, sometimes it's not Pepper or Maggie you will need in life. Sometimes it's just small kindness from people. She turned and walked away, leaving Bridget trembling with relief. But in a public compound, drama never ends with a rescue. It only pauses for the next act. That evening, all the neighbors slowly gathered outside. Nobody called a meeting, but in a compound, when karma happens in public, community enjoyment is permitted. Bridget sat outside her door, wrapper tied over her once glamorous gown, holding Toby tightly on her lap like a mother hen guarding her only egg. The corridor was silent until Slim Nancy dragged a plastic chair noisily, sat down like a judge, crossed her leg and said, "This life, you never know who will hold your child tomorrow." Mama Chica smiled gently and we endured because compound life requires patience. You said you don't borrow, you said you don't lend. But look at today, the very person you avoided was the same one God used to open your door. Even if you don't like us, at least learn to need us. Because whether you like it or not, we are your neighbors. Bridget nodded slowly, still speechless. Toby stood up, looked around innocently and said, "Thank you for helping me." Mama Chica hugged him. Slim Nancy rubbed his head. Even Uncle Dapo joked, "See? This boy already has better manners than his mother." The compound roared with laughter. Later, when Toby said, "Mommy, I'm hungry," Bridget went inside and brought out a small plate of rice and stew. Toby sat on the floor and ate happily. Just then a loud spark filled the air and Nipa struck. The compound went dark. Bridget screamed from inside. "Ah! I didn't even charge my power bank or my torch." She rushed out, pleading, "Please, can somebody help me with a power bank? Even for just 20 minutes? The corridor glowed with candles and torches. Everyone else had planned ahead. But nobody answered her. They acted deaf, eyes fixed on their phones. Nancy looked up sweetly and said, But I thought you don't borrow or lend?" Bridget swallowed hard, sighed, and walked silently back into her room. She sat beside Toby, who was dozing after his meal, and stared at her padlock. Slowly she touched it, removed it from the door, and pushed the window wide open. No more hiding pepper or onions. No more shutting curtains as if people want to steal my shadow, she whispered to herself. It is not weakness to need people. It is foolishness to pretend you never will. That night, for the first time since she moved in, Madame Bridget slept with her door unlocked. The next morning, while the neighbors gathered outside, Bridget stepped out quietly. No wig, no sunglasses, no performance, just barefoot humility. She bent slightly and greeted, "Good morning." "The war. Salt from me today?" Mama Chica's eyes watered, not from emotion but from the pepper in her stew. She smiled. "Give me the entire bowl." Everyone laughed loudly. Slim Nancy jumped up and hugged Bridget. Uncle Dapo clapped his soapy hands. "Let us fry plantain to celebrate this peace." Baba Timmy chuckled. And I was just preparing scripture on forgiveness. God is good." That same day, Bridget gave out salt. She gave out seasoning cubes. She even released 2 of her spoons. She sat beside Mama Chica, helping to pluck vegetables. She carried her buckets to the shared tap. And when a child shouted that his slippers was missing, she sent Toby to help search. For the first time, Bridget stopped watching her back and started blending. By afternoon, Toby was barefoot, running and laughing with the other children in the corridor. Bridget didn't call him back. She smiled and whispered, "Let him run and be free. We are home now." Just as she began preparing dinner, there was a knock on her door. She opened it. It was Slim Nancy. "Madam Bridget, sorry-o. I ran out of onions. Can I take 1 bulb? I'll return it later." Bridget smiled, opening her door wider. "You don't need to return it. Check my cupboard. If you see 2, take 1. Nancy laughed. This is serious. Somebody tell the DJ to play. I have decided to fully cooperate." The compound erupted in laughter.